The future we see in movies, read about in novels, and hear in the dogma of those who lead us into the future is something that all of us as human beings think about. Especially when this future may directly have an impact on us, be it for better or for worse. Now, the World Wide Web was the biggest revolution of the last century, and it feels like we're at the cusp of this century's revolution in Web3. So, let's understand whether Web3 is the future of the internet or just a scammy fairy tale. But first, hello and welcome back to the channel. This is CryptoNow, and we're back with another incredible video. So please subscribe to the channel and enable alerts to be notified of each new upload. The world has changed. I feel it in the blockchain. So what's going on? Well, before we start talking about Web3 itself, let's try to understand why there's a third version of the web out there in the first place and what the previous version of the internet actually looked like. Now, you might not remember it, but a long time ago, a project that the United States Department of Defense funded ended up expanding so much that it formed what we now know as the World Wide Web. So, let's talk about Web 1. Back in the pre-Facebook era, just a few individuals knew how to navigate and utilize the internet. The internet was very static, meaning that its information didn't really change that much at all. No pull down to refresh your Instagram feed, you know. And back then, people waited for emails without getting notifications. There was just no technology that could make that happen. Moreover, where would these notifications have been displayed in the first place on a pager? Making content wasn't as straightforward a task as it is now. The flow of information was also one way on the web. One webmaster decided what material to put on their sites, which would later be seen or downloaded by the end users. The webmaster had complete control over the material, while the end user had none at all in the structure. The internet was like a library with many books, all read-only and static. And no, you couldn't make notes in any of these books. This dark age of Web 1.0 bought us, for example, Google, which turned out to be the biggest librarian in the library. Back then, it wasn't a renowned critic deciding what was good and bad. Back in the day, the internet was also pricey since it charged users based on the number of pages they viewed, but got cheaper with both PCs and internet connection. Then, the internet started slowly transforming and became Web 2. By the way, it's not like the evolution of, say, a Pokemon, you know. There's no definite step that you can put your finger on as to when it turned into Web 2 from Web 1. Web 2 is just jargon that describes the changes and how people interact with the web. Indeed, changes that ended up differentiating it from the traditional vintage internet. Now, Web 2 is the current version of the internet that we know and love. Both the increased bandwidth and the advancement of technology, hardware, and software resulted in creating things such as MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc. These sites and platforms gave users a blank canvas to utilize to customize their experience and post material for other people to see. One important element here is blogging, which has made broadcasting online so much easier for the general public. In 2006, Time magazine put everybody on the cover, and that was a revolutionizing evolution. People started to view the internet differently. It became an integral part of everyday life, and the internet continued to change accordingly. Today, though, many fear these internet giants hold too much power. As a result, Web3 was born. Web3, touted as the next iteration of the web, focuses on decentralization, which will ultimately give control back to the end user. With Web3, services are available in dApps, decentralized apps, that run on the blockchain network. Perhaps the most well-known of these networks is Ethereum. Social media is not the only use for Web3 either. Supporters of the innovation cite its use for gaming, communication, finance, and more. Decentralization is a major concern. Developers say it's more about technical aspects and back-end programming, but others see it as an almost anarchist vision of the future. For example, one of the visions of Web3 incorporates the idea of a decentralized autonomous organization as explained by Ethereum.org. One concept that's thrown around a lot when talking about Web3 is decentralized finance, or DeFi. It uses smart contracts, which are simply programs stored on a blockchain that run when predetermined conditions are met. Now, these essentially enable financial instruments to be created without relying on intermediaries. Everything's just a simple set of small programs. Crypto countries are also an essential part of that, and we already know that at least 13% of Americans traded in crypto in 2021. If you're tech-savvy though, you may already be aware that such things already exist in the present version of the internet, and you're correct. Some of the next-gen internet features are now being implemented into the services that we use every day. Blockchain technology has spread throughout many apps and sites like PayPal, Microsoft, Amazon, and others. But it's not really Web3 yet. In its complete version, Web3 would allow sites and services to exist across decentralized computer networks and rely on blockchain technology to validate user data. The people who actually use sites and apps would then theoretically own them. Participate in an online community enough, and you'd get social credit. Consumers, rather than large corporations, would govern the service itself. Creators would get more money for views, and there'd be no real centralized censorship. People would vote on the rules of the platform, and there would be no private data leaks. The people would decide what algorithms do and vice versa. The war against machines and big tech would be over. Hey friend, we've made it halfway through our video, and we sincerely hope you've enjoyed it thus far. If you have, please give us a thumbs up and turn on notifications to be notified of new uploads. Now, this is what a big dream looks like. But what about real-life implementations? And why do so many tech-savvy people like Elon Musk think that Web3 is all hype and zero reality? The metaverse situation or Web3 sounds more like marketing than reality. The rebranding of Facebook as Meta in October of 2021, as well as the company's increased support for cryptocurrencies, propelled Web3 concepts like blockchain and decentralized technology into the mainstream. With a closer look, it becomes pretty obvious that most of what Web3 is now is just old technologies and concepts in new hyped-up packaging. But hang on a minute, don't we all know a company that does that every year? So why can't others? Web3 right now looks like something that combines all of the ideas about blockchain, DeFi, DAO, and others into a form that Wall Street can consume. Now let's take a look at what professionals are actually saying about this in the industry. Take a look at this tweet from former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. "You don't own Web3. The VCs and their LPs do. It will never escape their incentives. It's ultimately a centralized entity with a different label. Know what you're getting into." Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, also joined the conversation by asking whether anybody had seen Web3, to which Dorsey answered it's somewhere between A and Z, implying that it's under the ownership of A16Z, the venture capital company established by Mark Anderson and Horowitz. By the way, they're huge supporters of Web3. Has anyone seen Web3? I can't find it. It's somewhere between A and Z. So there are no surprises there. I bet you, a user of the future web who might have a conflict of interest with those venture capital funds when it comes to your big data. Tech companies have already invested in Web3. Do you expect trillion-dollar companies that make up the larger internet ecosystem to give up their control? Come on, this is evolution. The fact of the matter is that Web3 isn't some new version of the internet to which we'll have to migrate. It's a result of the present internet's expansion, and it'll most likely be a smooth shift that you won't even notice. After all, no one can even name the exact time when we switched from Web 1 to Web 2. If anything, the massive option of Web3 tech is only just getting started. Only about 10% of the world's population owns cryptocurrency. Decentralized financial systems already have roughly 100 billion in assets, which is still a small fraction of the traditional financial system. Despite the fact that Web3 apps have tens of millions of users, they still pale in contrast to the billions that utilize Web 2 applications. If anything, I think it's important to consider where the money's going. Investment in cryptocurrencies and blockchain companies has increased dramatically lately. So guys, this is the conclusion to this video. Web3 will create a more equitable internet by allowing individuals to be sovereign. True sovereignty entails controlling one's time and information and controlling who profits from it. In the end, Web3's decentralized blockchain protocol will allow individuals, particularly developers, to connect to an internet where they can own and be properly compensated for their time and data, overshadowing an exploitative and unlawful web where giant, centralized repositories get held for profit. So it will definitely have some sort of a powerful future. Great job! You've now learned everything about the future Web3. What do you think about it? Are you as curious to use it as we are? Let us know in the comment section. That concludes today's video. Please subscribe to the channel and enable alerts to be notified of new uploads. This is CryptoNow, and we'll see you in our next video.